Hello, if anybody's there and you can see me or hear me, let me know. I just want to make sure everything is working quite right. Gonna be working on this buddy here, the very front section of the saucer. I've got a little bit of pinstriping down, and hopefully this is going to turn out pretty well here. Just going to grab my materials I'm going to need here. Hold on one second. Just need a cutting mat, my tape, and everything that I'm going to be chopping up to put down here. I've got to remember where I'm looking. There's a camera here and a camera here. So let's see how this does. If you are joining me tonight, probably won't be on for too long because I will want to sleep. But do let me know you're here by leaving a chat in the stream. That would be quite nice. Just getting proper screens open here. I want my chat and I want my streaming software so I can see what's going on. Anyway, I'm going to get to work, and if anybody shows up and wants to chat, then I'm here. If you want to ask any questions, I am here. I will try to keep my eye on, I'm just going to bring the volume down a little bit, try to keep my eye on the chat and answer any questions that might come up. I'm working on pinstriping right now, and I've got, you know what, I think that this camera is just a wee bit too close. I'm going to bring that in just a tad. There we go. All right. So, if you were here with me, let me know. Leave a comment in the chat. This is the board of stuff I'm working with. There's just a cutting mat and a bunch of tape on it, little tiny strands of tape, and that's going to be going on to the model kit. All right. Here we go. I'm just wanting to try to make sure I've got a good... You know what? Just trying to make sure that you guys can see what I'm working on. The mouse does not like to work on my cutting mat. There's a few people here apparently, so leave a comment and say hello. Alright, let's get at this. Tweezers and number 11 blade. All right, here we go. Here we go. Very, very very thin tape for the pinstripes. So let's get this laid down. Okay, lay it down. Cut it off. And see what I can do about positioning. Okay, that looks about the same height as the others there. That's good. Gonna lay some pinstriping. Along this section here. Actually, I want this to go a little bit... This stuff is hard to manage. Very hard to manage. Getting the placement just right can be a challenge. Ultimately, I'm going to get it down basically to start with so I can get the appropriate length of the pinstripe. Then I'm going to refine it. Yeah. It's a little bit long. I'm going to chop it off. Still just a tiny bit too long. So when it's just a tiny little bit too long, that's where these things come into play. They are just the teeny tiny scissors. And we'll get those chopped down. By the way, if you were here, if you were watching the stream of me doing boring work, let me know in the chat. I want to know you're here. I want to know that I'm not just talking to myself. There we go. Okay. That looks pretty straight. I think looks pretty good. Let me grab the other camera here and show you more up close. Oh, what that looks like. Here. There we go. On the moving camera. There we go. Hey, welcome David, welcome Barry. To the mind-numbing work of Aztec masking. All right, so my phone camera is not enjoying the refocus. At least what you guys are seeing should be good, but oh well. I'll keep working on the camera that shows close up the work. David says, I want to try this. I know it won't look nearly as good as yours. You know what? It's just really being patient and thinking outside of the box a little bit. Kind of problem solving. If you're patient with it and willing to be a little meticulous, you can do it. I mean, this is probably one of the more challenging Aztec patterns to do with paint, and probably why most people end up going with the A-Creation decals that are available. I've got 2 sets of the A-Creation decals, but the color doesn't look right, and you can tell that they're printed on an inkjet printer, and I really like the look of paint, and I like the workmanship that goes into painting them. So all around, I enjoy the process, and I enjoy the final product with painting. So there we go. It's looking pretty straight there. Let me go hands free with my phone. I've got a little handy program that lets me switch between my phone wirelessly and my actual camera. So how's that looking? That mirrors the pinstripe pattern on the section above. This panel I'm working on is going to be a little bit lighter than the panel above. And here I'll just kind of go in on some of the other Aztec patterns here. There we go. This is better. Now the camera's moving in the direction that I'm moving in. Oh, that's so much easier to work with. There's what I've been doing so far. So I'll get doing a little bit more work on that. Okay. So the pinstripes are down. Next thing I'm going to do is lay in the Aztec decal. So, sorry, not decal. I was just talking about decals. I'm going to lay in the Aztec pattern that goes in this section. So I'm not going to lay down any Aztecs in the really narrow section here, because I didn't do it on the upper section, and it's fairly sparsely Aztec in here. So I'm gonna mimic kind of the spacing involved in the pattern up here, down in this section. Over, let me just show you here. All right, switching cameras. This is the area that I am working from. These are basically the thin, narrow strips that I am cutting the Aztecs out of. So I will cut teeny tiny sections off of the end and build the Aztec patterns out of those little tiny pieces. So that's essentially how I'm doing it. So let's actually get get putting on some Aztecs. All right. I'm going to start up in the corner. And there's a window here, so I want to kind of avoid that. So I'm probably going to do a little piece down and a longer piece across the top. So let's lay down a bit of a longer piece across the top here and get it positioned. There we go, make sure it's straight. And let me throw down a small piece running parallel to the pinstripe to form the rest of it, which you really, again, can't see there. I'm going to bring in a little bit more light. There we go. Hopefully that's going to be helpful. Just brought in a little bit of extra studio light, and you should be able to see the teeny tiny Aztec pattern. David says, are you making up the Aztec design, or are you following a certain pattern? It would take way too long to try to follow a pattern that is on the ship, and the resolution of the reference pictures are not really good enough to be able to replicate it perfectly. So I'm taking the essence of the pattern and incorporating all the little patterns that I've seen to make something that looks about right on the model. So that's essentially what I'm doing there. Okay, let's grab, just looking at my various thicknesses of tape. I'm going to grab a thin piece. Well, somewhat thin piece, I guess. And run it down here. Make sure that it is running parallel here and straight. Use my number 11 blade to make sure that it is going all in the straight direction. It's not crooked. There we go. And I'm going to lay down a few pieces coming off. Here's a very thin, like, hair thin piece here. There we go. I don't know. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. The best reference shots I've found for this thing looks like it was taken outside. So the lighting is outdoor lighting. So it's not really the best lighting to go on as far as what it looks like. But here, let me show you. Let me adjust this camera so you can see what I'm kind of doing here. So I've got little tiny pieces of tape, which I've got the strips, and I'm going to cut. Which way is which here? Okay, I come down here just for you to see a little bit better. Using my straight edge, try to get the thickness of a strip that I want, and then I'll... Oh, I haven't switched back cameras here. Here we go. So I've got my tape, my straight edge, my number 11 blade, and I'm using a metal straight edge so that I don't cut the straight edge as I am cutting the really thin. And I think I messed that up, so I'm gonna actually cut that section off because I don't think it was straight for some reason. Get rid of that. There we go. I don't have any pieces quite as thin as I wanted, so I don't even think you can see that on camera. It's so thin. It's like human hair wispiness here. You might be able to see if I lay some down here on the model. And what's really interesting is that this will actually show through. These super thin strands, the color underneath that's being masked off, will in fact show through as a really thin line of color, which is so cool. There we go. Let me switch back here and get you back onto the actual model itself. Here we go, just adjusting the camera manually. There we are. Oh. Let's turn the display off. And there we go. Didn't realize all the gobbledygook was on. Oh, you can just see it? Yeah. So you can see it better now that I've zoomed in right here. Right there. Okay. I'm going to go with one of the more standard patterns that you see on the E. It's a simple pattern. This takes me a moment to get the actual pieces. And that is one small piece there. And then another small piece that's about the same size, put right up against it but located a little bit down, so it kind of creates a mini lightning bolt or mini Z pattern there. So that's one of the common shapes that I've been trying to replicate on this thing. And then there's some different box shapes. I'm going to put, I'm going to need a little bit of a longer piece. I think I'm going to put kind of one of my favorite pieces to put on here. It's a pain to remove though. Put it right in the center at the front, because it kind of looks like a panel accessor or something like that. So I do I'm doing a narrow piece. Then I'm going to grab 3 really short pieces. go. There's one. Here's another. Just jockey it around. To be in the right place and to be level. There we go. And I'm going to throw another one right in the middle, in the center of those two. I really like the way that this kind of pattern has come up on the Aztec section, so it looks really nice once the paint's down and the masks are pulled. So I'm just going to keep going here. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, I will try to keep my eye on it. But I'm just going to kind of keep working away. I don't know, I always feel the need to talk continuously when I'm doing a live stream session. I think that need kind of comes from my days doing video games on YouTube. The need to continuously talk to people. Well, there's a little fiber or something that got caught there. There we go. Teeny tiny fibers have a tendency to want to get stuck in these sections, so I don't want them getting stuck in the final paint job. So I'm always just trying to keep my eyes out for them. This section isn't going to be too bad. It's not very highly, like, it's not very dense in the Aztecs. It's not too dense, but it is just like this section up here. The dense section really is like all of this stuff. This kind of more central section is probably the most densely packed Aztecs on the ship. I'm hoping that I can get this small section done tonight without too much hassle. There we go. Let's just find places to put these things in. Just grabbing teeny tiny pieces. That piece didn't want to come up from the tape, so I think one of the more challenging parts about this is keeping all the directions of the little pieces going the right way. It's a little easier on this section. Up further, it was a real challenge to keep everything going the proper direction. Okay. Barry, gotta sign off, getting past my bedtime. Really enjoyed seeing how you do it. Good night. Oh, have a good night, Barry. We will hopefully see you again sometime soon. Thanks for stopping by. All right. Kind of understand that a live like this is probably going to be a revolving door of people kind of interested in checking out how I'm doing it, but not really wanting to stick around for a long time, which I completely get, completely understand. I don't think I would want to sit for hours. Well, this is not going to be hours, but I don't think I would want to sit around watching this for extended periods of time. This is definitely not stuff I would put into a update video. I like to keep those kind of moving. That's why if you're making model building content, then editing software is your friend. I'm going to just switch this to manual focus here, just because the autofocus seems to be struggling with that just a little bit. So that should help keep things in sight for you all. There we go. Create a little bit of a shape detail there. Let's see. How are we doing here? Oh, we've got 11 people watching. If you are watching, here, let me switch. Let me switch cameras here for a moment. If you are watching, if you're there, say hi in the chat so that I know that you're there. We've had a few people say hi so far, but let me know that you're watching, because that way I know I'm not alone here, right? So, okay, let's switch back to what you want to see. David says, can you do this on an existing model that's already painted or no? I don't see why not. I mean, if you're thinking about redoing a model and adding this stuff, all you really need is your lay down what color you want for your Aztecs first, then mask off your Aztecs, lay down the top cover color you want on there as your panel cover, and then remove your Aztecs, and the base color will end up being the detail color. So in this case, I'm using the Insignia White from Vallejo as my base color overall on the ship, and I'm laying down the mask to protect this. Hello, Ken. Welcome to the stream. Laying down the mask because I want to keep the Insignia White kind of similar to the way it is up here in this gray section, and then I'll lay down a bit of a lighter color gray here. Over in, let me just move this over a little bit and pull this out. You'll notice that front's back is front here for me. This section here, I've got the very light gray Aztec panels. So I sprayed down the light gray first, and I did, because of the way that this is done, it's kind of like the opposite of most of the Aztec panels on the ship, did this section first. So laid down the light gray here, didn't really need to mask anything off because it was the first thing I put down. Then I laid down the Aztec masks here, avoiding sections like this where the lifeboat decals will go, and then I sprayed down the base color and lifted them up, and that gave this really nice light gray paneling here. So I think I can't see why you wouldn't be able to do this on, say, if you have an E and you want to add this kind of patterning. I don't see why you couldn't add it on. If you've got a clear coat, you might run into an issue with the paint sticking. You might need to do a little bit of sanding just so that the paint will adhere properly. But apart from that, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to do this after the fact. I've got a few models that I pulled out of my parents' attic that I did when I was a kid. Some Star Trek models that I would like to go back and redo, and so I'm going to be redoing majority of the paint work on some of those. I have a 537 Enterprise refit. It was the old Lights and Sounds, and pulled that from my parents' attic. And I think what I'm going to do is I have another, a newer one of those kits, the 537s, the newer releases, not the Lights and Sounds. I mean, the Lights and Sounds one is old, and it was old incandescent lights, and Doesn't stand up to our LED technology today, but I'll probably make use of parts from that. Kit bash it with the second kit I have, and make for myself a stargazer out of it. So I think that's going to be one of the things that I'm doing with one of my old models. So I'll strip down any paint that was on them with the magic purple stuff, and sand down anything that I need to, and hopefully I'll get some pretty cool projects out of cannibalizing old projects that I did as a kid, which should be fun. Alright. The pattern I just laid down there is another one, this one here. That's another kind of one that I've been doing here and there and everywhere. It's kind of like a two-pronged pitchfork kind of thing. So there's similar patterns happening all over the ship, but none of them are the same. And I potentially have another Enterprise E to do this year for somebody that's interested in getting one done with the paint scheme, and it won't look the same as this one. Even some of the colorings might be slightly different. The pattern will be different because it's laid down uniquely each and every time, but the essence, the feel, the spirit of what John Eves did on the original is really what I'm going for. So there are a few sections where I could see clearly on the ship, on the filming model, what they did, so I replicated those sections fairly accurately, but those sections where you can really see what was going on are few and far between on the reference shots that we have. If somebody owns or knows who owns that filming model and they want to get me some high resolution reference shots of the Enterprise E, that would be fantastic. But my feel is that whoever bought that thing at the Christie's auction probably wants to keep it fairly private. I know I probably... No, I wouldn't. I would take all the photographs and make them publicly available online. That's what I would do, but there we go. Just some more patterns. Yeah. Let me just see how many... 10 people watching. That's fun. 10 people watching me doing probably some of the most boring work on the project that you could possibly ever do. Don't get me wrong, though. I enjoy it because I'm very detail-oriented, and actually I say that model building is my way of venting my perfectionist tendencies without annoying other people. So this is a good way for me to vent those perfectionist tendencies. And actually, we're kind of discovering that our 4-year-old daughter has some of those perfectionist tendencies too. So who knows? Maybe when she gets a little older, she'll want to come into the shop and build a few things. She has never seen Star Trek, but she says she doesn't like it right now. So I don't know if she'll want to build any Star Trek models, but I'm sure she will have her own interests. I'm sure if my son, who's 7 weeks old, he's a little young to get working on models too, but he'll be exposed to it too, so I'm sure he might have some interest in the hobby. Alright, about halfway, almost halfway on this panel, which is good because then I can get the bulk masking done, and maybe after the stream I can get some paint on it. We'll see how far I get here. It's time consuming a little bit sometimes, just deciding kind of what type of pattern I'm going to do next. A lot of times it kind of just happens. I lay down a piece, and as I lay it down, I don't like how that's kind of in line with the others, so I'll make it go this way. I'll lay down a piece and I won't have any idea what kind of piece I'll be adding to it. And I'll just pick a line of tape that I want to chop off, and I'll stick it on here somewhere. And these designs kind of just organically grow like that. That's not quite straight. I do find sometimes I lay the tape down and then it'll travel a little bit, so I'm constantly double checking that the tiny pieces of tape have stayed where I want them to be and they haven't traveled. I'm not sure what causes that, or if it's just the elasticity of the adhesion on the back kind of pulling it back to where it initially got set down on the model. If I've jockeyed it around, it just kind of slowly reverts back to its original location, but who knows? I'm sure there's some science out there that can tell me what is going on. There we go. If I lift it to show you, it takes it out of the focal range. Just grab my cup of tea, Earl Grey. Not quite so hot anymore, but still all right. There's something there. Little piece of debris stuck there. I'm trying to keep any fluff or fibers or foreign objects off this as much as possible because I don't want them getting embedded into the... Oh, and there's a... Don't know if you can see it on camera with the camera resolution or anything, but a piece of fluff attached to the tape. And actually I'm just going to get rid of that. I might be able to just grab a new piece of tape that doesn't have any fluff on it, or maybe frantically flinging it around got rid of the... No, the fluff is still there. Where's my other... Sometimes two very fine point tweezers are needed. There we go. Got rid of it. There we go. Alright. I think on that one I'm just going to do a T-shape. T-shapes are also kind of very common in the Aztec pattern. So I kind of just went to the model, went to the reference photos, and tried to pick out the most common shapes, and so I'm kind of just sticking to those, using those. Okay. Let me do the corner here. I kind of jump around the sections as well as I'm working on it. There's some sections like the edges where you want to keep it going in the right direction, and that influences the shapes that come into the middle. So I like to kind of frame it out a little bit. Lets me know I'm doing everything the right direction. Kind of like working on a puzzle where you work from the outsides in. I'm going to do one of those Z patterns here, I think. go a triple Z pattern. Why not? Why not? Just happens to get a little narrower as it goes up, and might as well just bring this across too. There we go. Bit of a different pattern. Kind of a hybrid. Okay. Do that. It's a quiet chat tonight. Go. Just following the shape of the outline to give me the directions of the Aztecs. I think I'm going to run a piece just across the windows here. I don't do that a lot, but it's kind of nice every so often, here and there. Don't really have any medium pieces. I should cut myself some kind of medium thickness pieces, which is easy enough to do. Everybody keeps asking me if this is a masking set or if I'm making a masking set, and you know, I've got my vinyl cutter here in the shop, and I did give it a quick go trying to make some vinyl masks, but these pinstripes are so fine and so finicky to place as a mask that I'm not sure it would be beneficial. I think doing it the way I'm doing it now is probably the best way, but someday when I have time to sit down and learn the plotting software better, then I might try to work on it. Warren says, thanks for the stream. I always wondered how this got done. Very informative. I like the organic, spontaneous nature of the work. Got to get back to schoolwork now, though. Cheers. Well, thanks for joining. And David says, what color are you going to paint this section? I'm actually not entirely sure yet what exact color this is going to be. I'm just going for a lighter tone than the section above it. I might go a little bit of a more beige, little tinges of brown in there. It is a lighter, a bit of a browner look on the studio model from the reference photos, but I've got let's see here. I've got there's the camera. I've got a junk saucer here that I've been test laying colors down with, and yeah, so I'll probably lay down a few colors and just try to see you know, what I think might work the best. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been this is the saucer that the client kind of gave me because he was starting to work on it himself, but ended up not being able to finish it. So he gave me some of the parts that he'd been working on. So this saucer I'm using just kind of to test colors, test patterns, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know what color exactly that section is going to be, which means I might not get color. If I get the masking done tonight, I might not get color down on it tonight because I might want to do some test sprays just to see what's going to actually look right on the model. So yeah, and it might end up being a mix of colors. I don't really know yet. So all right. Well, this is going along pretty well. I mean, this is pretty easy section to do compared to the area closer to the bridge. I don't like where I placed that. Let's just let's place it all the way down here. Okay, I think be a bit more of an S pattern, perhaps. We'll put a little piece here. There we go. And then one just on the other side. You know, doing this, trying my best to reproduce what I see on the studio model, which is obviously much larger than this 1400 scale ship, even larger than the 650 that a few people have been fortunate enough to get their hands on and do. I can just imagine the guys in the studio when they were building the filming model sitting around and saying, okay guys, how can we make this as challenging as possible for the model builders once we're done? They'll probably make this thing in 1400 scale like they did the D, so how can we make it almost impossible for them to reproduce the pattern in the 1400 scale? And so I think this is how they came up with that challenge to give it to the model builders. Obviously now the new challenge is going to be, how do you get unattached nacelles on the refit Discovery, right? How do you accomplish that floating warp nacelle look? And I think the only way anybody's actually going to be able to do that convincingly is to build the model and encase the whole thing in a big, huge block of clear resin. I think that's the only way somebody's going to be able to manage to do that, because I don't think there's any like magnet tricks or anything like that. And still, if you want the nacelles lighted, there's still going to have to be some sort of connection with it. Cotton balls. What's the context on the cotton balls, David? Are you referring to the floating nacelles in Discovery? I'm curious if round 2 will come out with a Discovery refit kit, or if people are just going to kit bash the only teeny tiny kit we have of that ship. For the space in between the floating nacelles, yeah. I guess if you could do some... I think there was a couple shots where they showed like energy streaming to the nacelles, but yeah, I think that's going to be a challenge for somebody else to take up. I don't know that that's going to be one I'm going to want to do anytime soon. But I'm sure somebody will figure something out. I mean, obviously there's the whole acrylic rod, and just pretend like the acrylic rod holding the nacelles to the ship aren't there. But I always think, okay, there must be a way to make this look more realistic. I was trying to think about how you could make the saucer section on Discovery rotate. Clearly, the only kit they've given us to work with commercially won't cut it as far as that's concerned. So, I think that compared to the other section above it, that's probably good as far as the Aztecs go. Let me grab my cell phone camera here and give you except the camera. Cell phone camera is just having a hard time focusing, so bear with me for one moment. There we go. Okay. So this is how it is looking with the section above it. I think that's probably good. David, you can do it. You're the model master. No. I'm not the model master. There's guys that are much better at it than I am. I mean, I'm not putting lasers or anything like that in my work. Then again, I've got kids in the house. If I didn't have kids in the house, I might try putting lasers in some of the projects. But yeah, there we go. I think that probably the app I'm using to, let's see, just trying to see if there's any way to deal with the focusing better. The app I'm using to get the camera to my streaming software wirelessly might just be making my camera on my phone have a hard time focusing. But yeah, that's how it gets done. And I think with that, I'm going to call it a night on the live stream. I'm sure there's going to be a baby waking up crying soon, needing a change and needing some food and stuff like that. So I should probably think about calling it quits for the night. But I will probably try to test colors on this thing tomorrow. Lay down some test paint, try to see if I can get a color I'm really happy with. Oh, actually no, I'm not done. I am not done. I almost forgot. There's work I have to do. And some of you might be interested in how I approach this. I mean, this won't take very long, but I need to mask this thing off from the rest of the ship for painting. This particular section is not going to be too difficult to deal with. Essentially, my approach to masking off these panels from everything else is to start small, close to the panel, and then increase my masking size as I work out, especially on some of the areas that are curved. The more curve that's on the part that I'm going to be painting, the narrower I go close to the panel to start with. Like there's a little bit of a curve here, but it's not going to be anything I really have to fight with. At least I don't think so. We'll see how it goes. The wider the masking tape, actually let me grab my tweezers because it's a lot easier to lay this down when I'm using those. The wider the strip of tape I use, the harder it is to get that perfect curve going around. And of course, the more light you have with this, the more light you have in your workspace to do this, the better off you're going to be. I don't know if this is going to be enough to finish this off. And actually, I'm going to have to do the top part a little bit differently because there's another raised panel directly above it that's a little bit too close to deal with that way. So my insurance policy is a much narrower piece, kind of put in the gap between. Oh, that did not turn out well. Actually, it's going to need to be more narrow. Ken, using a narrow masking tape to cover the edge and curve is good way. Also, I do recommend using a liquid masking as well. Yeah, I've done some work with the liquid mask, but honestly, I haven't been too happy with the results. I mean, where is the liquid mask I have? It's on the desk. It's on the workbench here somewhere. Okay, I've lost my... Have I lost it somewhere? Okay, I did have a bottle of liquid mask here somewhere, but it seems to have disappeared. I mean, I'm in the middle of a project, so everything is a little bit chaotic on the bench. But yeah, especially for the sections that masking tape is crossing over. Yeah, I haven't actually had any problem with that. I haven't had any bleed. I mean, I did. I am using a different tape on the top for the detail masking than I did on the bottom, and that's allowing the fine details to show better on the top than they did on the bottom. I mean, they were fine on the bottom, but I was using the delicate surface stuff, and I switched to just the 3M blue for the top, and it's turned out a whole lot better. And you know what? That's going to bother me that I don't know where my liquid mask has gotten to. The odd time I have used silicone that I would normally use for making molds, I've used that to mask off sections. Actually, on my, I'm just cutting some more masking here off to the side where you can't see it. But on my Nova class project, I used silicone to create some masks. There's a little bit of an interesting problem-solving thing, where what I did was on the Nova class, on the bridge section, there are some windows in the recessed bridge dome section, and I was scratching my head trying to figure out how I was going to get that section masked, how I was going to get the shape down in order to mask it properly, because it is let me see if I can get it into camera here. I should be able to get it into my second camera. Battery might be dying on it a little bit, but yeah, those windows up there on the bridge. Let me turn it off here. What I ended up doing was pouring silicone in there, letting it cure, and then I pulled it out, and I created a stamp, essentially, which I still have here somewhere. Well, I can't put my hands on it right now, but I created a round stamp, rubber stamp essentially, put it on an ink pad, put that on the tape, and then cut the tape out around that, and that gave me essentially the perfect shapes to be able to lay down in there to mask off those windows for painting. So there were some major challenges. Is it not picking it up right now? Or was it just not picking it up when I walked away from it? Because I see volume levels on my software. Is it not coming through to the stream? I can always turn it up a little bit if it's if it needs to be. Let me know. It could have just been because I walked away from the microphone here. Let me know, because if I'm just blabbering on and nobody can hear me, there's no point to it, right? So, yeah. Anyway, so I created the... Okay, perfect. Good. Thanks. So yeah, so the silicone went in. I created essentially a rubber stamp, stamped it onto the tape, cut that shape out, and was able to lay those masks perfectly into those windows. So the Nova class was not necessarily the best final product. There were some major challenges with that kit. I will probably do that kit again in the future, now that I know the issues with it and can properly anticipate them and deal with them. Okay, so the edge masking is done. Now, I'm not going to use... I don't want to use the blue tape for the rest of it, because I don't want... Even though I've put down adhesion promoter, primer, everything, and done all that the way that it should be done, I don't want to risk using the regular painter's tape on bulk masking. So I have either the yellow frog tape delicate, or what I've mostly been using, the 3M delicate tape. And I'm going to use that for the bulk masking on this thing, so that I don't dare risk pulling any tape up. Did I just say I don't risk pulling any tape up? What I meant is I don't risk pulling any paint up. So now that I've got... Oh, let me switch back here. Now that I've got the fine masking done, the narrow masking done, I can do small sections with the purple tape, the tape for delicate masking. And It's quite small. Now it works. Never mind. Yeah. Wait, is that you, Daniel? Let me know. It's hard to see the picture on the chat. Also, those large windows here that ha! Welcome to the stream. I really hope you are enjoying how this is turning out, even though it's taking a little bit longer than I wanted it to with COVID and baby and all that kind of stuff. What's going on is on looks is when you switch to second camera. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not, Ken, I'm not sure what you mean by that. But, you do? No problem? Great. I really want to make this as good as I can for you. Well, I want to make it as good as I can for myself too, because I wouldn't be happy with it anything less than as good as I could possibly make it, so. Are you happy with your choice of paint pattern? I've kind of been really curious about that now that you're seeing how it's turning out. 'Cause I really hope you're happy with your choice of paint pattern. There we go. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Oh, it's exactly exceeding your expectations. Perfect! Yay! I'm happy about that. I'm gonna switch here. Give you a quick tour of the paint scheme. So I'm really happy with how this has turned out. Now it's gonna look darker on camera than it will in person. Again, trying to balance that whole on-screen look with the studio model look. Oh, sorry. It shouldn't be affecting the microphone because the microphone is separate from the camera. How odd. Sorry. So Ken says, when you switch to second camera, your voice has become quiet. In first camera, the focusing on model voice is good. Okay. I'm not sure why that's happening. The audio is coming through completely separate of the camera, so I'm not sure why that would be the case. But let me back this camera up so you get to see a little bit more of the project as a whole here. Okay. Got one more section to protect here that I kind of missed. There we go. So now I'm just going to get into, I think your switching software is muting when you are on the second camera. Okay. Oh. Okay. So let me adjust my audio levels. And just a moment. Okay. How are my audio levels now? Apparently, audio from one of the cameras was activated in my streaming software, and I didn't notice. So you were actually getting some audio from my camera along with audio from my microphone. So hopefully that's all worked out. Let me switch cameras here, and that should hopefully not change the audio levels now. Let me know if that is working out better. Because yeah, it's nice to be able to just have my phone wirelessly as a second camera. I really like having that. So hopefully it all works out better now. So I've been focusing on the saucer. I'm not going to lay it down on its back right now, but I'll turn it over so you can kind of see what's going on the bottom there. It's definitely a bit more subtle on the bottom than on the top, and I'm not using the decals for those gills there, but that's paint. I was really quite happy with the way that turned out. And it should actually, now that I've got some practice on that part with this model, should turn out a little bit better when I do the gills on the top section. So yeah, let me switch back here, and audio should still be the same. So just putting the camera back on the shelf there. So, when I'm doing the masking, when I'm getting ready for the bulk masking, I'm doing the small detail masking close up, and then I'm just gradually getting larger on the tape masking as I progress. So now all I need to do is lay down large strips. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to leave that till tomorrow because I'm going to put the paint down on this. Oh, I thought there was something on the model. It was just the window showing through. So I'm going to put paint down on it tomorrow. Since it's midnight here now, I need to get some sleep because little one will be up shortly, needing diaper changes and stuff like that. So thank you for joining me, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed a little bit of a look into what it's like doing the Aztec masking and the pinstripe masking on this. And I'm just working on the next update video. There's a little bit of time in between them right now just because it's time consuming to do the Aztec masking sections, but the here, let me adjust this camera, the one I'm not looking at right now, and get a little bit closer on the part I want to show you. So this section in here, hands down, is the largest, most densely packed Aztec section on the entire ship, and it's the section that has taken the longest. The only Aztecing sections that are left to do are along the engineering hull, and then there's some stripes and various different shapes that can go down on, that will go down onto the nacelles and a few other locations. So, but the bulk of the Aztec work is done on those sections. So I'm really happy to have that done and it looking really, really nice. The pinstripes, I'm so happy with how the pinstripes came out. They're just so clean, so crisp, and really happy with that. So with that, I am going to sign off. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. But I look forward to maybe doing a few more of these lives as I'm doing some of the finishing work on this project, and hopefully it'll get done pretty soon. I'm hoping that I mean, it can't be picked up right now because of the lockdowns and various things like that anyway, so what we've been experiencing here in Ontario. So but we're getting there. So have a good night, thanks for joining, and we'll see you guys later. Have a good night.